Are the Royals trying to spend here and now to be a better team, to put themselves in a better light for something like public funding, so that when it comes to a vote in 2024, you know what? The Royals had a pretty good team last year. They spent. They're trying to get their team together. They're trying to make a push. And believe it or not, I think sometimes the public and politicians, that kind of greases their wheels a little bit.
Here's Brody Brazil.
Whether it's fair or not, the Kansas City Royals have always kind of had the reputation of being one of baseball's more frugal teams in the league, which makes it really interesting that within the last week, all of a sudden, like after winter meetings and before all the holidays were done, they just started spending. And we'll get to the different players they've just signed and the dollar amounts and for how long, all those details in just a second, but spending all of a sudden, and why? And maybe it's because of the division, like they think the AL Central is winnable. They were not a great team last year, but maybe they see a push they can make. Also, they're a team that's pushing hard to get a new stadium. Kaufman Stadium literally crumbling. We'll talk about that in a second. They've got two separate sites, two separate plans, two totally different sets of renderings right now for different ballparks they want to put together. Maybe they're trying to build some momentum, some public perception into a stadium, which is kind of the opposite of the Oakland A's. And you know I cover them here on this channel. These two franchises have a lot in common. Like, oh yeah, obviously the A's used to be in Kansas City, and the reason the Royals exist is because the A's went to Oakland. And baseball said, here you go, Kansas City, in 1969, here's a new team. You can call them the Kansas City Royals. But over time, they've kind of operated in similar ways. Like neither team has ever had a $100 million player contract. For Oakland, their biggest player contract was Eric Chavez back in the 2000s. 6 years, $66 million. And pretty sure that Kansas City's largest contract ever is right now with Salvador Perez in the $80 million range, which we'll talk about in just a second. But both teams known for small payrolls, never having big commitments to players individually or their team per season. But yeah, the Royals have found their way into World Series, and they've won a World Series. And the Oakland A's have had a lot of success in regular seasons and playoffs in recent times and over the decades. But both of these teams are trying to move somewhere. In the case of the A's, they've already got public money and baseball's approval to relocate to Nevada. And in the case, like I said, of the Royals, they have two different stadium sites that they're trying to get to either one of those just to get out of the aging Kaufman Stadium. So they both have baseball ambitions to a large degree, but their business intentions are to move, and those are both pretty serious for both franchises. Okay, so for the Royals, this is what caught my eye. Seth Lugo, 3 years, $45 million. Michael Wacha, a fellow pitcher, 2 years, $32 million. The outfielder Hunter Renfroe, 2 years, $13 million. Another pitcher, Chris Stratton, 2 years, $8 million. Will Smith, 1 year on a $5 million deal. And shortstop Garrett Hampson, 1 year, $2 million. So all of that in kind of a quick burst, and it puts the Royals right now still 17th in Major League Baseball, a little bit lower than middle of the pack. 17th overall in payroll, which currently sits at $87.6 million. Like if the season started today, but they've got a lot of players with arbitration situations and a lot of contracts to figure out. So the projection right now from Sport Track on the Royals would be a basically a $110 million payroll come opening day. Oh, and there's Salvi Perez, by the way, a 4-year deal that he signed for $82 million. He's got 2 more years left on that. And I'm pretty sure that is the largest Royals contract ever awarded. And you know what? Deservingly so for Salvador Perez. Of all the Royals over all the years, yeah, he should have the biggest contract they've ever awarded. But over time, like I said, I mean, you can look at year by year here, and there is going to be that big decline in 2020 for every team based on a lot of situations. But they're a team that's spent as low as, in the 30s in 2011, 2012. They've spent more than 130, and that was back when they were in the playoffs, making the World Series, and that type of run. And you can see how it's just kind of spiked up and down, but unlike the A's, they've had a $100 million team. That's something the A's have never had. The Royals have had that in recent years at least a couple times. But their spending has not generally gone up or down or stayed level. It's kind of gone up and down. The stadium situation. Kaufman Stadium, where they currently play and have for decades, it's literally crumbling. Like, they have a concrete problem. And the way, I guess, that they mixed it back in the day, it has some problems with expansion and contraction, and it cracks and it leaks. And I don't know that it's a true safety issue, like don't go to a game tomorrow type situation, but over time they realize they either need to fix this problem or they need to move out and demolish the venue. And so the Royals are pushing. I mean, it's a, I don't want to say it's an excuse, but it's a reason for them to, speed up the process. They've got 2 official sites. Again, both of these sites have locations that are very specific, with renderings that are very specific. Unlike the A's, who have a location but have never really depicted what might go there and how. But there are some questions about the actual total cost of a ballpark like this and what the public contribution would be. There you go. The site in East Village, the site in North Kansas City. And the Royals say, this is from their website, our vision is not just to build a facility that does justice to the spirit of the K. We want to construct a world-class experience, a new ballpark district and all that comes with it, one that is woven into the fabric of our city, can host events and concerts, and boosts our local economy. And they're beautiful images, and they're realistic images. They're something that, Kansas City and the Royals can both likely do with the right funding. But there is that huge discrepancy on the total cost. There's also no real commitment or established public funding or financing of this yet. So the taxpayers are wondering, was this a $1 billion project, a $5 billion project, somewhere in between? If we take out a loan or do bonds, what will the ultimate cost be to pay back the loan? There's also a current sales tax, which the Royals and the Chiefs both benefit from. But the problem is, in the near future, they're both tied to the same tax. So it would be something that the football team has to get in on in the same way that the baseball team does. They'd both have to be agreeable with changes and modifications, and you'd have to think a new football stadium is likely in the mix for Kansas City in the near future too. Anyway, it's not as simple as it sounds in any regard. Yeah, there are renderings, there are plans, but I don't know that there's a clear path about how this is going to happen for Kansas City. But just going back to the spending part, again, it kind of makes you wonder, are the Royals trying to spend here and now to be a better team, to put themselves in a better light for something like public funding? So that when it comes to a vote in 2024, you know what? The Royals had a pretty good team last year. They spent, they're trying to get their team together. They're trying to make a push. And believe it or not, I think sometimes the public and politicians, that kind of greases their wheels a little bit. It's just a far opposite approach of what the A's have done. They've stripped it down. Maybe they're not in the game of winning perception and don't care about that part. Maybe this is why the Royals are spending. Maybe it's something else. But 2 totally opposite approaches here by these big league teams. As one is starting to spend, the other one is not, but both of them want new homes and want public money as part of it. You made it here to the end of the video. I appreciate that. Thumbs up down below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so I can definitely see you back here next time.